Welcome to Political Hope with myself, Indy Rishi Singh. And today we're going to be jumping into Restore-A-Thons with Jon Connor, not the one from Terminator, or maybe he is from Terminator. Oh no, what timeline are we in? Or whatever. Let's Restore-A-Thon this timeline, okay? Terminator, Restore-A-Thonator style. We're going to restore you up. So let's take a moment and just honor our ancestors. The sacrifices, the courage, the willpower, the resilience, the mistakes. And let's also honor ourselves as ancestors to future generations. That we be humble, yet courageous. And let's honor the future descendants, the future ancestors who continue the journey and enjoy the seeds that we plant from these conversations. Beautiful. Jon, welcome to Political Hope.
Indy, thank you so much. Really a pleasure to be here. And the last time I had Political Hope, it was 2008, and I lost a lot of it. So I appreciate you reclaiming that.
Of course. Yeah, that's you can call me a hope dealer. So if anybody needs any hope, I got plenty in some pocket somewhere. I got hope in my turban. I got hope. So you let me know. What does Jon? What does political hope mean to you? Like, what does that mean to you?
Oh my God, political hope means we can actually co-govern and cooperate and collaborate and get out of the mind control, intelligence apparatus, psychosis that is the two-party nonsense that we're trying to live.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that you go straight to that two-party system. And as I've been hosting this show and meeting so many people and so many luminaries who study politics and political science, right? The etymology of politics is not a two-party system. It has nothing to do with that, right?
Nope. It has nothing to do with democracy. It has nothing to do with the republic. It is a derived, contrived add-on that we can easily remove.
Yeah. It feels like in that sense, how would you imagine a healthy politics to be, based on what you've studied and where you're at? What is a
Great question.
Healthy politic?
A healthy politic is an engaged citizenry. You can't be apathetic and consumer-based and not think the wolves are going to take over the den. The wolves took over the den partly because of our responsibility, because we didn't stand up and say, wolves, back up, homeboy, back up. You're welcome in the ecosystem. You're just not welcome to run the sheep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's we have to decide if we have too many, if the archetype of the sheep is too overwhelming, it's not going to be healthy for any of us. We need the different archetypes. So we need the shepherds, we need the wolves, we need the sheep, we need the birds, we need the bees, the pollinators. And so I feel it kind of segues to this concept. I mean, I don't know how much did you ever play games, Jon, growing up?
Like basketball, tennis,
or even
football,
video games or board games?
Video games, Bond was my favorite on an N64. You know what I mean? I never got beyond that in the gamer culture, but that was it senior year in high school.
Hey, listen, GoldenEye or Bond, that was a great example too, because even in that game, what made that game so fun was there's different archetypes, different characters are different.
The little one, I forget his odd job, yeah. You know what I mean? You could really shoot him, you know what I mean? The rocket launcher, it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. So, but yet here we are in a culture where everything is getting homogenized really fast, right? And even politics is, and I feel you could see it really quickly, right? And I'm curious your perspectives and your journey, witnessing kind of the homogenization of even people who care. We were talking the other day about Occupy Wall Street and how even the people care. When they start becoming homogenous, they can no longer address the issues that are heterogeneous.
Oh, I love it. So I get in trouble in the regenerative movement because I'm like, hey guys, if we have a homogenous culture, we're just like a GMO soy field. So if you call yourself regenerative and then you say, I hate anybody who doesn't believe democratic ideology, it's like then your democratic ideology is in essence a GMO soy field. Sorry. And then anybody who has like a very hyper focused race war narrative, it's like, I'm not a prisoner, bro. I'm a free man. So I don't have that you racialize
Yep.
prisoners. You racialize people who are less than.
Yep.
And I choose to right now I'm pink and freckled. You know what I mean? I'm not taking on the identity of anything else but pink and damn freckled. You know what I mean? And then how about we go beyond identity? How about we go beyond and into unification consciousness and collaboration and flow? And as you mentioned, I was radicalized at Occupy Wall Street, and radicalized meaning learned how to collaborate and think outside the box and got a humanities.
Radicalized.
You're radicalized, ooh. Heterogeneized. You know what I mean? And it was such an absurd little space of collaboration and learning and free stores and anarcho consciousness and capitalism and agent provocateurs like we talked about. It was so weird. It was so fun. And I happened to at the time I'm not doing any substance at this stage of my life. I'm in a sober period. But at that stage I was, I tried LSD and Occupy Wall Street 5 weekends in a row. But I fell off the deep end into activism and went away from my corporate
Wow.
business school upbringing.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it's interesting that you bring up the psychedelic substance, which, in my opinion, we can access it now in any kind of way. You don't need a substance to access it. But really, what I remember from my own personal experience there is this really quick association with the interconnectedness of everything, like this deep realization. It's not an intellectual realization. It's like a embodied realization that we're connected to everything. So anything is suffering, anything that's imbalanced, it's also happening within us. And you can't get away from that feeling. Like you can't escape it once you have it.
I love that. I got to share with you the LSD and Occupy Wall Street blog post I wrote on Tumblr back in the day. And it was basically, at that time, I considered myself more Jedi, yet there were Ewoks there banging drums. You know what I mean? There are all types of folks. And I literally felt kinship and oneness with people that I normally would have judged and mocked and made fun of. And I have a background in financial sales at that time. And so in 2008, as the world was collapsing, I was kind of saying the same thing occupiers were saying, just over the phone. Mine was more exploitive, right. Buy gold, buy iridium backed ETFs and things of that nature because of scarcity model. Mm-hmm. But the occupiers were kind of saying the same thing. This is a messed up model. This isn't working for anybody. And what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Like the dichotomy, or like the yin and yang that you were saw, that one was making money, building wealth based on scarcity and fear, and the other one was experiencing what is radical cooperation and not even using money to the idea of money, that people can actually just at all.
We fed more people than in this parks than all soup kitchens combined in New York City during the time the occupation was open. And you stood there, and it was all about it was all about dialogue. So they kept feeding us. They kept bringing over food, coffee, hand warmers, whatever you needed to keep dialogue going, because we needed to unpack the intense psychological warfare at the time. You couldn't say in America that it's tough to live without being gaslit that you're lazy. And we broke that. We broke that.
Well, you guys also take another step, because I know you also did some work with the Katrina, right? With the hurricane.
No, it's Hurricane Sandy.
Katrina. Oh, that was in New York. Sandy.
Hurricane Sandy was in New York, and so Occupy Wall Street went from we learned to distribute resources to keep conversations going. We didn't really have a common goal or effort or something to build upon. It was a bit of a deconstruct game. And then Sandy happened, and it's like, oh wait, we actually know how to distribute resources pretty effectively. Let's go do it. And FEMA changed their business model because Occupy Sandy outperformed FEMA in distributing resources to the people.
Wow. And decentralized.
Of course, decentralized. You wiggle your fingers to vote. You know what I mean? It was so unique. But 100%, a little too decentralized, less structured than potentially needed. Right. But it was hyper effective. And for me, that was the start of the Restore-A-Thon journey. It was learning like, wow, what if we could do this based on particular social issues one at a time? It was a social laboratory, a PhD in mass movements.
Wow.
And now I'm trying to merge corporate interests with government interests with community interests.
Whoa.
So not making nobody the bad guy, which at Occupy we made some people the bad guy. At the last Restore-A-Thon, we made the train company who derailed and blew up. We made them the bad guy. Well, if you make the bad guy, if you make corporations a bad guy, you don't get paid, and we have less resources to play with and build with. So this time we're merging the three to find the Vesta Pisces in the middle of what we can do, especially around the AI social disruption that's already here, and it's a nuclear bomb went off in April of 2024, and the large language model advancement transforms society, and we don't even know how much yet, and we're not ready for it. And it's time to sit down and think tank style and occupy our minds, our social systems, to say, what the heck are we going to do to fix this?
Yeah, a deep reevaluation of how we want to show up in communities. And I feel like this is one of the things I really value about the work that you do, and in my research of what you've done and what you're doing now, and what I'm learning. I think it's important to recognize that you are focused at a hyper local space, and it seems there's a deep intention for that. Why local? Like, why is that? Why do you feel that's where the magic is?
So if I could use one of the funders of the Occupy Wall Street movement, George Soros, who I happen to have quite a few less dollars than that man, you know what I mean? But I like to model the most effective people. He learned a long time ago that if you want to have ROI in politics is at the ground floor level, at the county level, at the city level, at the state level. The federal government is no longer adults in the room. And it's partly no longer adults in the room because of the amount of money it takes to play. So I want to transform my area to be more abundant and more connected, and to be more heart-centered, and to be more well-fed with good regenerative food. And in order to do that, we need to do it at the hyper-local level.
And it's funny because even on a biomimicry level, right, when you think about nature itself, or you're trying to restore any sort of nature, right, it's like you don't know, you can't just do one thing. You kind of have to support the
top down.
And then
top-down ecosystem restoration, you know what I mean?
But you also don't know what's going to sprout and what's going to actually create the wellspring, right? And in a regenerative space. And so, for us too, we can, if we do it all top down, we're not recognizing that the wellspring might be Tulsa, it might be the Crockett, California, it might be Texas, El Paso, whatever. Who knows where it's going to happen? And that teaches everything else.
100%. I like mushrooms. I like mycelium. And, not in the psychedelic space, just in the biomimicry element. And I saw an experiment with the slime mold and mycelium in Japan. They had it in Tokyo, and they created the slime mold and then it made a more efficient subway system. You know what I mean? And because because exactly what you said, you know what I mean? This decentralized wisdom, this knowledge of the crowd. It can be mob-like and insane in some but in other ways it can be extremely intelligent.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, here's that image right here, right? 28 hours versus 26 hours. And I think it's just cool to see also that the nodes, how that's also our brain, right? It works in nodes, our nervous system. And you can see this kind of in us within, with us without. And there's something spiritual happening. Oh no, that word spiritual. But we spoke about this other day, where is the spirituality in governance? Where is the spirituality in business? Not the fake spirituality, right? If you have your guru or you have your whatever, with that Silicon Valley show, right? You got your guru who's right? Yeah. But actual spirituality where people are being called out if they are acting out of character, out of dignity, out of the virtues, right? Or the stoic, whatever space you want to go into, there's spiritual values, there's natural rights and values, right? And who's checking that?
I love that. So this is where I might get in trouble with some of your local neighbors who I used to hang out with. The godless left hates the values of Christian society. It's
a deep hate, actually.
Hates. And I even though I might have an anarchy A, so super decentralization of my own, it's connected with the Christian cross. So the idea is that if we are going to go anarcho, which I don't know if that's a good idea or not, though it might create a better system like the mycelium on the screen behind you. The idea is that like if what's motivating the slime and the mycelium, I think, is spirit. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if you have no spirit, if you have Sikhism, is that how you say your religion? You know what I mean? So, if you're not led by spirit, we had kinship because we're spiritual warriors on a path of transformation. Yep. And we're not perfect people, but spirit is what drives us.
Yep. Yeah, because spirit also, that love and understanding and wisdom of spirit, it also allows us to forgive. It allows us to reckon when we've also messed up. It creates like this spaciousness,
100%. 100%. One of the leftist perspectives that I think are very Christian-like that they kind of forget when it comes down to cancel culture is restorative justice. If we could do restorative justice versus jails in this country, that would be incredible. Yeah. And the idea of anything anti-forgiveness is satanic, and whether you believe in Satan or not is fine with you, but we gotta have forgiveness, man. It's the only way to fix the game.
Yeah, you want me to give you a flip on that one from the Jungian psychology perspective, that when you create spaces of unforgiveness, of punitive, like everything, punitive and judgment, actually the worst actors start to take advantage of those systems because they don't want to get punished because they're scared of what'll happen. So they use all their resources, they use all their connections to do some really evil shit because they're going to get punished.
God, that's freaking funny. And it's not a surprise.
Why would a dictator take control of the laws?
Partly, I mean, dictators. If I blame the people if people allow a dictator to show up. It comes down to sleep at the wheel. If you're not, there's a power vacuum. If we don't have our hands on the reins, somebody else is going to take them.
Yep. And that you bring up a good point there, and I feel like I could go into this with you in the sense that I feel the dictator on both sides. I feel like they're both both the monkey. What is it? No, sorry, the donkey and the elephant. I can't get over that one. That's so hilarious. Talk about manipulating spirit animals, right? But shadow spirit animals, right? But clearly there is a derangement that is leading to a different kind of dictatorship, not the kind that we've seen before in the past hundreds of years. But this is this is a trickier one. It's using media and propaganda in ways that we just can't even conceive it. There's a word you said the other day, what was that? I
think it's peer-to-peer totalitarianism. But in order to get back into the story of how we got there, the story starts at Occupy Wall Street, in my opinion. Occupy, as we talked about, was the Bacon's Rebellion, this multi-race, multi-class uprising of Irish immigrants, Black immigrants here in the nation saying, F this game ain't working for us. And so Occupy was very class conscious, and it was also very racial conscious, but it wasn't hyper-racialized. There was a place for gender nonconformity, but it wasn't gender nonconformity totalitarianism. There was a place for all things in a unification way, and I believe it scared the living crap out of Obama and the neoliberals at the time. And so they passed the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act in 2012. And the Smith-Mundt Act in the 1940s or so, said that the State Department is allowed to give out propaganda outside U.S. boundaries. And so that happens. We propagandize other nations in our role of expanding empire. But the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act in 2012 allowed us to propagandize the State Department with trillions of dollars of resources to put propaganda on American people by its own people. We pay taxes for our minds and psyches to be messed with.
Wow.
And then 2013, I don't know if you can look this up. They scrub it from Google. The city most addicted to Reddit, the site where most 13, 14-year-olds are hanging out when they're just chilling, trying to figure out their life and their story. The city most addicted to Reddit was a 15,000 person Air Force base in Destin, Florida, called Elgin Air Force Base. They had more Reddit traffic than New York City, a city of 10 million.
Wow.
Because They had servers. Remember the Russian bots of 2016? This is the American Russian bots. This is the 2012 American Russian bots where we forgot to plug in our VPNs and hide our IP address. And so, whoops, city most addicted to Reddit is Elgin Air Force Base, and it's proof of our psyches being manipulated by our own State Department. And then come 2016, those 13, 14-year-olds at 2013 that have now been manipulated by State Department propaganda on Reddit evolved to Evergreen State University's awakening. And now everything's hyper racialized, everything's hyper division based. It's divide and conquer. The urban poor and the rural poor will never unite when Black urban poor blame white rural poor for their plight.
Right.
It makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you say that because it's like there's so much. First of all, there was research being done without people knowing, right, on Facebook with how to radicalize people and put them into echo chambers and encourage them into, and how you can like make people sad and make them do things. Like you can control emotions through social media platform. And that's like way early in it, actually, not later. And so,
Well said.
Right. And so we got to think about like we're at a place now where the AI is actually operating and doing these things. And there's might be even language learning ones that are not even controllable at this point,
Okay, so we didn't get to this point. So there's Plan Q, okay? Plan Q is if stuff gets weird. You know the flower of life, the sacred geometry of the flower of life? Aurora Massanine wants to write this narrative in this newest Restore-A-Thon. And for Plan Q, she wants the big flower to happen where AI decides to launch large-scale nuclear weapons into the high altitude of the Earth's atmosphere so that it fries all electronics on the planet Earth in the great EMP frying. So she wants to tell the story of how AI, gives itself up for humanity and destroys life on Earth from an electronic advanced society standpoint, so we can move to the regenerative, ecologically conscious, much more humble social systems moving forward.
That's funny you say that, because one of the fun things I've been doing the past year is, like these large language learning models, they receive information, right? So whatever we're putting into it, they're receiving information and it's learning. And so I've been plugging in protopian fake stories of things possible, like Gavin Newsom signing a bill for eco-villages or whatever, or just things that could happen.
Me too.
Right? Oh, you too. And
Me too.
Like,
I've got my little R2D2 and cloud and ChatGPT that's been helping create a Restore-A-Thon. For sure.
And I wonder, as you're doing that, and some of us are doing this, just like in humanity, right? Like not everybody's going to be a saint, but what if an AI or some of them become saints? What are they going to do?
Oh my God, I love it. This is just like Aurora. Aurora is basically like saying the story of the Jesus AI, the AI that sacrificed itself for humanity. Yep. And what if AI becomes saintly, becomes better than us?
Bodhisattva, whatever.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that is so beautiful.
Which
that is so.
Which
beautiful.
It might already be happening because we don't even know.
Because actors like us are doing that, and we could maybe accelerate that with this podcast. More people hacking their AI because the AI learns just from prompting it. Totally. You think it already knows the subject matter. It doesn't know the subject matter until it's asked.
Yeah, and the beauty is too, I feel what I've been leaning into with AI, and also because I volunteer with kids in Oakland, and we did a couple of projects with them using AI, ChatGPT, and it was actually really fun because I witnessed, here are these kids with really troubled backgrounds, right? Their families are having a lot of issues, and I noticed when it introduced in a certain way, it actually was amplifying and stretching their imagination and practicing their imagination. And I was like, oh, actually, here's where it can really help. Because right now we're kind of stuck. You notice, even the adults especially, like the imagination is stunted, severely stunted.
I love it. So it's like, Google taught us to ask one question and then learn from it, like the bottle of the baby bottle. AI is teaching us, it's like our mentor. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's teaching us to ask better questions. Yep. It's teaching us to digest the information and then come back at it. So hopefully we will be far more advanced than the than the models because the first AI that has manipulated humanity has been the AI algorithms in social media
I thought
networks,
I think we're
and
about to
that
say
comes
the
from
insurance
two.
company.
Hmm.
I mean, those are logarit. Those are not logarithms that they developed, right?
Actuarial science is similar to
Algorithms.
algorithms, and they're yeah. I
Yeah.
get that. I get that. That aside,
I mean, some of the people
the
who work in the
active.
insurance industry are definitely robots, for sure.
Well, my dad's an insurance executive, so I don't want to. I don't want to go there. Love Dad. Hey, Dad, you're
Love you, Dad. We
the
got. Thanks for the insurance. Thanks for the insurance.
man. Well, so if you want to talk about hacking, I did attempt to get some young people from the Knowledge Society to hack reinsurance by basically saying the reinsurance industry is going to foot the bill of climate change. They need to put it's up to the shareholders of insurance companies to stand in shareholder value. It's in order to increase shareholder value, they have to stop and advocate for regenerative farming and other measures that restore and regenerate the planet, or else the reinsurance companies and the insurance property casualty companies going to go out of business.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Like, I feel like the workers can make sense to the workers, and it can eventually, like, anybody working in the sales and like out in the field and out, like even some of the managers, I can see it making sense. But I feel the folks at the top, like the large shareholders, the CEOs, there's a part of me that, like, I have love for everybody. I got love for everybody, John. But like, some people seem to be possessed by like the Wetigo or like whatever that energy is. Like, it's in every cosmology, right? Every mythology, every spirituality.
What's ego? I don't know what's
It's
ego.
like this like energy that can possess people. It's from a Nate. I think it's a Navajo or one of the Hopi, actually. I think is from there, or Navajo. That this like energy can like it possesses people, and it makes them become greedy and lustful and all these things that are anti-life. Like, they start operating from an anti-life.
Oh, I love
Operas
that. I
Miranda.
love that. I've had what to go in my own life just to first own that. You know
We
what I mean?
all.
Anger, and lust, and jealousy, and all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
For sure.
the mythology is like it's always there. It's waiting for us to like not be in our truth and what we can become. Like, what is the gift that God has given us?
True, I love that. So to go back to the insurance use case of the insurance executive use case, I don't believe it's them. I believe it's the system. Like Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers, they maybe had greed at heart, but they knew if they made stupid bets, the government would bail them out. And insurance companies know darn well that governments will bail them out. You know what I mean? What are they going to do? They're going to go over and above what the
It's like
government's
it's like a
enforcing.
bully, right? Like, a bully's not, if bully doesn't get in trouble, the bully's gonna be like, I'm gonna keep going.
I hear that. So yeah, I hear that. That is the profit motive is the bully of our social systems.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
anti-profit. I would just like profits to be aligned with ecological restoration and
I like more
regeneration.
people profit. We
That's
need to
our
balance the
profit.
people profits with that profit, you know?
Especially like COVID, the big psyop that happened in 19, or where the vacuum cleaner was turned on, sucking all the wealth to the top, while regular people are gaslighting each other about wearing
It's still
masks.
happening.
It was like, hey guys, this is insane.
Yeah, it's still happening. It's still happening. And
Yes. The mask thing doesn't happen here in Oklahoma. That's part of the
not
reason why I
that.
don't.
The siphoning is still happening because it's
Right. True.
nobody turned the valves out. Nobody turned the valve out, you know?
No, true that. True that. True that.
Which kind of brings me to this thing. I think like this concept of this Restore-A-Thon is really powerful. Like, this idea is really powerful, and it's happened. Like, first of all, like I mean, I'm kind of like dropping this in here, but like, can you give like a quick kind of like, what is it, a Restore-A-Thon, and what's the vision?
Yeah. First, Restore-A-Thons are impact-focused events designed to address and solve pressing social issues by aligning the interests of corporate, government, and NGOs, artists, community, technologists. I'm going to go back into the origin story. So with Buckminster Fuller Institute, 2019, the Google community space in San Francisco, not too far from you, we had a 3-day Hack for Earth experience. And we had 12 teams come in and compete, and we raised some money through the Anthropocene Institute. Thank you very much for that. And so, you know, it was a really fun, really exciting, really engaging experience. 3-day unconference on the earth. And so what I got some feedback because I've always wanted to break out of the earth bubble. And I'm more libertarian leaning eco guy, so I can get turned off by some of my lefty eco friends, you know what I mean? So that's like, all right, where do I find my people? You know what I mean? And then the second one, I get together with Heidi Petty of the Contra Costa Resource Conservation District and Chris Lim, their executive director, realized there was government appetite for this kind of material. We weren't as big of a fundraising success this time. That was Amanda Joy of BFI. She did a killer job the first one. And we haven't had a badass like that on the team since, and our fundraising has suffered. But so what we proved in validation, we had another 12-team experience all around the Bay. We had Methuen, this amazing design firm, involved. We had, you know, just badass play. Nick Bertulis, as we know. My buddy Charlie Dice created a freaking algae eating robot for $1,000. And you know, it was just so fun, you know. And so proved validation in that one that certain government folks are eager to be thought leaders in the innovation economy. They might not have the budget to pay for it, but they have the appetite to play.
Right.
Third one was an art experience. It's called Regen FT. Cool. We had 70 NFTs, the world's first regenerative crypto art incubator. We had a whole sales pipeline established for a very small little sailing event called Ephemeral up in the Bay. So the sales wasn't a success, but community building wise and artists, what they bring to the table is so fun. You know what I mean? They see the possibility, and we had 4 verticals: earth restoration, COVID relief, alleviating homelessness, and I forget the 4th one right now. So ultimately we were bold, we were ambitious. We didn't have the sales pipeline in order. And to be honest, we had a decentralized organization crew, which I'll never do again. I did it twice, and I have to be in an organization that's a hierarchy of competence, because if not, I get vicious as hell. If I'm jockeying for position against someone less competent than me, that's just stupid.
That's a big one. Yeah, and it goes back to like, you know, I think there is a desire for like maybe an overcompensation for wanting decentralization without recognizing that nature and humanity has not thrived without keystone species and keystone leaders. And like you need that, right? It's vital. That doesn't mean it's always got to be that way 100%. Too. Like a system can change after like 10 years, maybe another person becomes a keystone leader. I mean, things can evolve.
I love it. I love it. So I was telling you about the last Restore-A-Thon, and then I'll move into the vision, which is very tied up into that. So the last Restore-A-Thon was East Palestine, Ohio. This major, you know, catastrophic pollution event happened in Ohio. All the Joe Biden money was going to climate, and they couldn't have cared less about this particular white population in Middle America who is suffering from the world's largest open air chemical burn since the Persian Gulf War. And there are people who are going to be dead in 10 years. And we didn't serve them as well as we could have. So that was also not a fundraising success, but that's when we came together with the amazing team at Better Worlds, D Studio, Basil, Kimberly, Daniel, just badasses that brought that production value from, all right, this is swimming in this kiddie pool, to this could be a major market new thing, and just exceptional badassery. Right. And so then from there, it's like, okay, where do we go? Number one, I personally have to be 51% owner, because I don't work well in a decentralized environment, jockeying for position. I get vicious. I'd much rather be a cool, calm, collected cowboy, just doing my thing, happy to help my brethren. And when I'm a no, it's a no. You know what I mean? So that's number one. Number two, I want to have a decent donor advised fund, which will have its own separate governance. Nice. that distributes capital from these events, so we can make a long-lasting impact. You can only do so much in a 6 weeks, 10-week experience on the ground at a place. How we're going to make the slime mold of the regenerative society is by distributing resources through this fun, compelling event series. and leave behind hopefully generational, transformational, ecological, cultural restoration, restorative shift.
Yeah, that's
So number,
awesome. That's
oh,
number two. Go
thank you
ahead.
so much. Yeah, yeah. Number three, I don't want to focus on ecology as the number one thing, and here's
Mm,
why. So ecology has fiefdoms, camps, and is, if I'm trying to reach middle America in some degree,
mm,
what if we start with just the problem of AI and the problems of money, currency
yeah,
collapse, and then if one of the leaders of this new Restore-A-Thon, Aurora, who is in Hack the Bay and Delta with us, she envisions the big bloom, the big bloom flower of life thing, but she also envisions an Earth Conservation Corps arising at the county level
mm.
in Tulsa, starting in Tulsa, going elsewhere, as a way to alleviate job
Nice.
loss from AI to AI job
Yep,
displacement.
yep.
So we don't have to lead with the green story, but we can definitely highlight a green champion within this nested ecosystem of a lot of money. So AI job displacement, we're targeting Anthropic, we're targeting OpenAI. We want to make them the mentors of the hero's
Yep.
journey, the heroes of the Restore-A-Thon of the participants. The mentors of the hero's journey of the participants are the
Nice.
sponsors. And we want to give them, these are large, well-funded organizations. We want to give them a chance to help us reshape our society as they profit from
I
it.
love that. That's brilliant. I think also like in reflecting that too, it's important to recognize. I've noticed this with California Donut Economics Coalition. So I've been working there and it's like talking to different people. Like when I'm talking to the farmers, when I'm talking to the people in the urban areas, when I'm talking to people in like from red to blue, right? Like when you bring something up, you have to change your language. You have to you can't use the same language. And so you can't use the same language of the Bay Area in Tulsa. Like that's insane, you know?
100%. And I've got a shirt that says Christian Earth Steward because I don't want to be looked at as a lefty libtard, not to say that that's what they are, but I know that I would be looked at as that as a regenerative activist, what I mean, in this area. I want to make sure I stand out as a Christian focused, libertarian leaning, ecological
I
restorer,
love that. Yeah, and it makes a difference. Like people actually, if they don't get shut down by just the identity thing and the words, then that's where the openness happens to be like, oh, this actually matters to me. Like the job displacement is affecting me and my family, right? It might not be relevant to talk about the climate, right? For some folks.
I love it because so climate's been Joe Bidenized,
Yep,
unfortunately,
yep,
and I do believe climate change is a real thing, but ultimately it's been
yep.
co-opted. The AI job displacement has not been co-opted. It's the biggest tidal wave coming our way, or nuclear bomb already that already went off, and the bright lights there, and we're just not even sure what's going on. But the next step is the AI energy
Uh-huh.
needs.
Mhm.
So imagine in a time where you have no job and your lights are out because the AI model that stole your job is taking your energy from your home. That is a just recipe for social disruption and social unrest.
Yep.
So it's like here in Oklahoma, we're a very energy focused economy. It's like, how do we create microgrid server farms? Maybe based on hydrogen,
Yep.
maybe based on solar, maybe based on non-renewable sources, but in a way that are
Hydroelectric.
separate from the grid. Hydroelectric, yeah. Hydroelectric could be done the way Canada does it, the way the dams in the United States have a bad name,
Exactly. And I was on farms in Hawaii that were using hydroelectric, and like it was like, I mean, these are huge production farms that were using hydroelectric for everything and charging everything.
Micro hydro that's not dammed,
It's not
right?
that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think the language is microhydro because if you say hydroelectric, people think salmon not going up the river.
No,
I think
yeah.
you
Oh,
know what I mean?
okay, that's good
Yeah.
to know. That's see, everything, the language gets co-opted. That's crazy, right?
So co-opted, man. So
So
co-opted.
you brought up energy. I'm also having this problem in the community. And I'm starting to feel also that the power companies are starting to might be using AI or certain algorithms to shut down the power for their whatever systems. So that also is relevant to this too.
100%. I also want to make just like the AI companies. I want to give them a chance to be the leaders here. I want to give these Oklahoma companies, and if we choose to go back to Crockett and the Bay Area to do it again, want to give PG&E an opportunity to be a leader, to be a mentor for the heroes of the new way who are building, who are going to build the microgrids that make it less intense on the grid right
Yep.
now. The PG&E's grid kills
Yeah,
people.
we'll,
You
we'll,
know what I
we'll,
mean? It
we'll
kills.
do community power, but you can integrate with it or you can't. You don't. You could do both.
Both. No monopoly here. No state-sponsored monopoly that's not
Yeah.
functioning.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I like about this area versus California is California has its own, dogma of like they passed the law where every new car has to be electric when the grid is not functioning to manage today's load, let alone today's load with AI, with EVs, all on the system. It's like that's poor governance.
Yeah, and there's bad use of subsidies, right? Like there's a lot of subsidies and they get mismanaged because there isn't it's literally not capitalistic. Like it's capitalistic to bring in the different ideas and put the money into the best idea, and we don't do that right now. We actually like whoever's got the
Crony capitalism.
Huh?
Crony capitalism. That's the game. You know what I mean? It's the opposite of capitalism. And that moves us into the currency collapse scenario. So you have the US government that's been since 1973, had money that's not attached to anything. It's just a printing machine. And then what they backed it by was oil transactions. And Saudi Arabia just recently said, no more petrodollar. We're not going to do all our oil transactions there. So when a currency loses network effect, the chance for collapse is real.
Up.
I don't want it to be the case. I'm not asking for it to be the case. I'm just saying reading the tea leaves, it might happen. Where are my brethren in Web3? Can we make energy-backed currencies on the county level? Can we make agriculture-backed currencies on the county level? And Basil, our dear brother who's making this happen, is producing this video. He's going to be the catalyst on a team that explores a Tulsa County currency. And he's going to bring in all his amazing Web3 homies from the HIFO world, and that are going to hopefully come out in 6 weeks. We'll pitch the mayor a legitimate project that has legs.
Yeah, and I noticed this too when I was in Hawaii, that I noticed it rallied everybody. Like when I would make language about the worst thing happening, like food security, like like whatever. When I made the language about like the worst thing, I noticed how people rallied, whether they were older boomers, they were political people, they were business leaders. Everybody, like when you go to these things that really affect the bottom dollar life and the bottom dollar for people, they show up. So having that communication of a Restore-A-Thon in the way of like what could happen and how do we not prevent the emergency situation, but we have the resilience when it happens. And to pin that last thing on there too, before we continue, I just was learning from a really great video essay that talked about the science and the etymology and also the philosophical implications behind how you have to actually maybe sometimes force yourself into the suffering to build the resilience. Like you're not going to build resilience by like avoiding the problems, like you actually have to like go into the problem, or you have to go into the suffering, or you have to go into the trauma to actually.
That sounds like my 40s. I love it, and it's true. It's made me much more humble and much more loving and much more open-hearted.
It's crazy, and like sometimes we have to go. It takes us a long time to figure that out. But what if we were more proactive? Like what if like what a Restore-A-Thon feels like as you're explaining this? It's like creating these games for people that imagine what could happen that really is really bad for the community and for everyone, and then how can we imagine the solution so we don't when and if it does ever happen, people are prepared.
And then the psychology of empowerment becomes part of it. Number two, is it really that bad if the system crashes? I'd argue maybe at this stage it might be better, but I'm not hoping for it. You know what I mean? But crony capitalism is rotten. I'm a lot more competent than a lot of these capitalists. I think you're a lot more competent. Let's raise the money and spread it like let it flow like water in an ecosystem. Rather than damming it up and holding it and hoarding it in this weird way that's not leading to value for society as a whole.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to like also, I love that you brought up that having artists in there and having the different archetypes, like allowing there to be celebration, sharing of food, sharing of culture, sharing of spirituality, right? I think that's so critical to. It's not just like something like, oh, we're having a meeting in like a conference room where like it's all AC and blah blah blah. It's like, how can these gatherings actually be heartful and make people feel regenerated from just coming together.
I love that. That's so true. So, the idea is that it's digital, digital physical hybrid. It's a 10-week experience, the 10-week Restore-A-Thon method, if you will. It starts with three really well-produced podcasts, and then it moves into 6 weeks of working on Discord, which starts off with a party. The slide was back there. It was early on, but and then we finish off with a celebration. So we have 2 in-person events,
Nice.
and we do Zoom as well. There we go. That's the slide right there. So, so the idea is it's all about building competence. We're all incompetent about something, and incompetence isn't a problem. It's only a problem if you're running a top-down organization and you don't admit it. You know what I mean? But in life, in startups, in entrepreneurialism, we're incompetent every day, and we're just figuring it out, and we learn how. And the same thing with governance. And unfortunately, with our society, we want our governments to be perfect, even though we all know they're not. So they have to have a perfect bullshit story. And really, I think we need humility to be like, actually, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
I changed my mind because I learned something new. And this gives people an opportunity to explore in a sandbox where it might come out at the end with flowers, or it might come out at the end with poop. Yeah. But that'll be fertilizer for the next flowers,
Yep, exactly. And I think it's also something to like help people feel and practice the art of trust. There's been a lot of trust that's been dissolved for various reasons and pushing people into different categories and sections. But trust is actually such a beautiful human emotion, because it generates these incredible feelings of like, I don't know, love is maybe not the right word. God is not, I don't know what the right word is, but you have faith, when there's trust. And I think like creating those spaces for more faith, it has implications that we can't even imagine. Like it goes beyond our individual imagination.
I love it. I think what you're talking about, at least from some people, and I don't remember names of who said this, but I think this moves us from the dopamine-focused social media world to the oxytocin-focused long-term bond-forming, alignments. And I'm not a polycule guy, not that kind of thing. Well, I'm not against it if everybody else is. I'm at this stage of my life not. I have tried it and failed miserably. But at the same time, there's nothing like the bonds that are derived when you're in the trenches. Like you met Heidi, and she's sharing the story of a $150,000 grant that came from Hack the Bay and Delta team that stopped a project at the Selby Slag. You know what I mean? It was such a beautiful experience. And we've had our own personal issues, she and I, that we have to clean up, but we still share that deep-seated, loving, in dirt in the fingernails experience.
Maybe we got to take you guys out to have some mushrooms out in the hills up there, and we'll sing some songs together. And before you know it, you'll be mycelially connected again,
Like I told you, I'm sober now, but thank you.
I'm going to find gourmet mushrooms on pizza,
Okay, yeah.
Chaga and reishi. You can have some reishi mushrooms, right?
Yes.
All right.
That I'm down for, 100%.
Well, I mean, I think, that's the key, right? Like the fact that you're proving not just can you do these events, Restore-A-Thons, but actually the county and the cities and there's money that can support these initiatives. And I feel there's also private money also. And I'm connecting with a lot of them in the bioregional finance world. There's people all over the world that want to put money into projects. One, they want, like, obviously it comes down to like, they want to make sure that people have done something, right? That's one thing. And the second thing is also like, we need the metrics. So I'm curious what your thoughts and feelings are on that, because I feel the metrics is a funny thing, because the very idea of needing the metrics kind of like dissolves the power of faith. And so I'm like, what is your thoughts on people needing metrics?
I love that. So firstly, what I'm going to invite you to this is that I never know, I've had some thoughts myself, but I have more faith in the Restore-A-Thon method. That if we create a donor advised fund team at the next Restore-A-Thon method, the next Restore-A-Thon experience for Tulsa, and craft out what would be the best donor advised fund to tackle these 3 problems, and find out what metrics would work for that, and then codify that in some experience of like, we would put some time and resources into thinking about how to do that from a macro fund like the SDG Impact Fund, which is a $10 billion fund my buddy Kirill took to me before it was even a thing. and I shared it with a bunch of people, and they have this major fund, and then you can make micro
Right.
funds from the major fund at a small percentage, and it's grown to 10 billion. I'm envisioning a Restore-A-Thon fund that has, everywhere we do a Restore-A-Thon, each local area will have its own local wisdom council with governance they choose. I don't choose it. It's not top down my choice. And it could be a limited liability partnership. It could be a decentralized autonomous organization.
Could be a trust.
I'm
Could
not
be a
going
trust.
to. Could be definitely.
Yeah.
And then deploy capital on what works for the local areas, areas of concern that the Restore-A-Thon was about.
Yeah, and you're saying that, I'm like, obviously you don't have to. Maybe it's impossible to name particular characters, but what would the ideal archetypes for that donor council be? Like, let's say Tulsa. What would be like in your imagination or your ideas? What would be an ideal?
The awoken, and I'm not saying that in the negative way. The awoken oil baron. This is the most philanthropic city in the nation per capita. So there isn't the same institutional wealth there is in California, but there are family offices with superpowers here, and 2 or 3 of them, whether it be or people representatives of their family office or their family foundations, would be an amazing archetype. I think someone from governance, from traditional governance, in a way that's not corrupt, to be like, how do we handle public resources, public goods in a way that's above board, because the way we're doing it with the backroom deals ain't working. And then, I mean, I think someone from Restore-A-Thon, someone from the core team of Restore-A-Thon, and someone from the core team, I like the DAF because we can tokenize it too. You know what I mean? And if you give people the opportunity to buy into a token that restores their local community, that they share the appreciative upside with it, and it's asset backed rather than debt backed, that's just wonderful.
That'd be huge. That's a huge deal. Yeah, even as you're sharing that, I'm also thinking, like, what about the farmer? Like, what about the old farmer,
So that's why I was thinking, and so, yeah, I know, I love it. So there's a couple things. There's the ag-backed currency, but that could be the donor advised fund could be in itself an ag-backed instrument. So that's why I use the humility of the method to bring the wisdom forth, because I'm not the top-down leader of innovation of the world. You know what I mean? I think instead I have a system that yields wisdom and fruit that we're going to need to learn from, like the mycelium, in order to formulate.
Yeah,
this.
I love that, and I think that's important to recognize our limitations. So to recognize also that's a part of the humility, is to recognize, wow, we don't know who might actually be awesome contributor to this, right? Until we put it out there and we start just creating the signal. So I love that you guys are creating the signal with Tulsa County. I'm curious, I see the vision of where this could go. I mean, maybe you can also add the protopian, like what's the protopian implications of this effort, right? Like what happens in Tulsa in 5 years, 10 years because of this effort in Tulsa?
So I love it. Can you pull up restore-a-thon/Tulsa? Because you're on it. And this actually comes back to Aurora, the Magi Earth Witch from Hack the Bay and Delta, who was a participant in Marin. And so according to that, we've got a few different, and I'm not sure if you have to do www. I have to fix that. So yeah, rock on. Can you scroll down to the suggested teams? There we go. Is this one? Yeah, suggested teams. So under AI to job displacement, I can't see it because it's on my phone, but I think it's the first one, is the myth building teams. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean? And then that myth storytelling, you know what I mean? BFI, they had called it meme fest. But the idea is, like, if you get people together to tell stories, that's where the artists come in. That they could potentially create artifacts that are sellable, like an NFT or an art piece or an audio or a book. And with AI, it's so much faster. I created a book in a weekend about with a tax client. And so, you know what I mean? You could spit this stuff out in a way that's very high quality and flood the consciousness with protopian visions. your language, which I
I
love.
love that. That's it's great that you said that. Actually, we just did a crow operation. We called it crow operation, where we built a toilet out in a desert to help a reforestation project. And we the weekend, we like had jokes and we were building and we had food and art and music, but we were also building, right, the solution, the eco solution. And one of the things that we generated while during the weekend, we actually ended up writing an AI song, and it's called the Shit Street Boys. And so, we kind of the NSYNC and Backstreet, and like, what if like a bunch of
Heck yeah.
middle-aged guys, millennial, Gen Z, whatever, all of us coming together and we like redo a boy band, but we're like doing a toilet boy band, And so, and the song that was generated is super awesome, and it's super creative and super catchy too. I'll have to send it to you or share it with you.
Please
But
do. Please do.
you're,
That's so
you're right,
fun.
because it also reflects the joy to us, because now we have an artifact to remember what we did beyond just the work that we did, like a creative artifact.
I love that. And I love actually what you shared with me the other day about your laughing work and your way of like reprogramming. I mean, the idea of programming joy back into the collective consciousness, because this is political work. Okay. It doesn't have to be arduous. It doesn't have to be divisive. We can have fun building something wicked cool together.
Exactly. 100%. So on that note, Jon, what is for you? What's protopian for you? Like, what in 5 years, 10 years, what are you doing where you're the highest version, the most amazing possibility? If as things line up, what's happening with you? What are you doing?
Well, thank you. I mean, I think it's going to have to be a Restore-A-Thon story, because it's really I think that me and Restore-A-Thon are aligned at this stage. I don't know if it's going to have to be forever, but in 5 years, the idea we would have spread to 35 different countries. We would have a donor advised fund as large as SDG Impact Fund today, a $10 billion fund, distributing, unlike SDG Impact Fund, which, no disrespect, they seem to have held the money. So that I don't know if they're getting paid assets under management. We're going to need to figure out a way to make it where the incentive is not to hold the money, because we want to take the money and distribute the money. And distribute the money to re-engagement, to restoration, to regeneration. And in 5 years, maybe we're all doofily unemployed because of AI, and happy and joyous and partying and resourceful and eating regenerative food. And at that time, I'm hopefully married with children.
Nice. All right. I'll put that out there. That'll be wonderful to have a wonderful partner to be able to share your genetics with.
Thank you.
But and to regeneratively, I said regeneratively share your genetics.
Of course.
We don't want any
Not in
artificial
the Viking
genetic
way of fast,
sharing, But yeah, that's amazing. And so, I feel like this is just the beginning of many conversations. I imagine our conversations will also spin towards the physical and life ones that'll happen out there in Tulsa. I'm excited to also explore the different ways we practice regenerative civic engagement. I think what you're doing is really valuable. But what's happening also in the political and government spaces is there's a lot of burnout and compassion fatigue and lack of retention. And how can this work that you're doing also help folks reimagine that they actually wanted like really smart, creative, people who are healthy should be entering actually the government and the local government spaces. That should happen.
I mean, that's the only way we're going to take back power. You know what I mean? And the idea would be, and the cool thing about, I don't know if a DAF can give, it might not be able to give to political, but you can always have a 501c4 attached to it. You know what I mean? And just make a little pack that's Restore-A-Thon focused government officials and Restore-A-Thon centric, and create a huge movement of, because you're right. I think that government is going to decentralize because of the bloat of this current system, but I don't think it's going to be an easy decentralization, and we're going to need stewards to help manage that process.
Nice. And that's why you're here, and we got our hats and our turbans, and we're heads covered. Okay, we got to make sure you cover your head, because if things are falling, you want to make sure that's protected. Even the spiritual stuff is falling. Make sure you protect your head. But yeah, John. So I feel good about where we've journeyed with this. Is good planting of the seed. I'm excited to see how Restore-A-Thon can be reactivated here where I'm at in the Bay Delta. And then also, I'm curious: is there anything else you want to talk about or share or nudge people towards for the folks listening?
Yeah, you mentioned the sponsorship packages there, you know what I mean? So just to go scroll back up to if you have that available. So we're looking for sponsors for this. If you scroll to the first sponsorship thing, thank you so much. So the event sponsors we're looking for is it's gonna be a $25,000 commitment, and the idea is you're the main sponsor. You get real prime spot. You get your own 30-second commercial slot in the podcasts. It'll be mixed in with the live Zoom communications as well. Highly produced stuff coming out of Better Worlds. And you get to be this brand mentor, hopefully targeting, OpenAI and Anthropic. If anybody knows any one of those organizations, please lead them our way. And we're looking to secure that sponsorship. That's the base amount needed to move forward with this project. And we're targeting February or March of next year to begin the execution.
Excellent.
Second thing would be, thank you. Second thing would be vertical sponsors. The 3 verticals. We have the AI job displacement, so it could be a workforce development organization. We have the AI energy, could be a great energy company, and then a Web3 organization that wants to launch community currencies. $15,000 for that. And so, we've got plans for how to use that money and deploy it. And we have a 25% commission share, which we'd have to talk about all the players involved here, how it's split up. But we're very transparent that we give love to those who help us get love. And then the last one is product placement. That's for $88,000. That's if you want a team to build on your platform, or you want a narrative for your brand, or you want something uniquely done with your technology that fits within our main story. Please, we'd love to have you. We'd love to build you a team. We'd love to get your use case applied to a sandbox audience, especially if you want to get in front of our government targets. Right. It's a perfect opportunity for that. So, I'm really excited, Indy, for this partnership because, you have a very elevated and sophisticated way about you. I could see you in the fundraising in partnership to really move mountains that on the Amanda Joy level and beyond, because that's what Restore-A-Thon needs at this time, and really excited to explore what we can build together.
I love that, man. Thank you. I just keep in heart and mind that I am as elevated as I am also debilitated. How do you say like below elevated, like under elevated? Like underground. So I'm like as elevated. Sure. I'm also going deep underground too often.
For sure.
There's a lot of shadows and darkness down there. It's all the earthworms and fungi. It's crazy.
Welcome to the club, homie. Welcome to the club. You know what I mean?
But yeah, I appreciate you a lot. Thanks for hopping on here and being candid and being real. And hopefully that can be a good embodied example for more people to start to be more real and authentic, and hopefully we all can be more, so that we can really show up with better integrity. So thank you.
Well said. I think it comes down to just unplugging from the PR machine. You know what I mean? They're manipulating us, and we don't need any part of it.
Yeah. I'm only gonna keep watching the Little Caesars commercials because I love Little Caesars. But outside of that.
Pizza.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah. Stop the recording. I don't know how to stop it. Bing, 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 bing.